Sumerians were noted for their worship of many gods. Among them was Enki, a god known for being the patron deity of the city of Eridu. Enki is depicted in many pieces of Sumerian art and literature, including the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh and others. Due to his prominence in such works, it's fair to assume he played a large role in Sumerian culture. Much about Enki remains shrouded in mystery and begs further exploration. Enki, a god known for his inherent worth, represented healing, fertility, and creation in Sumerian culture. His intelligent magic often included trickery to benefit the good of the human race. Son of a sky god, Enki was thought to reign over the earth and high heavens. As a leader of the Anunnaki gods in Sumeria, it is believed that Enki inhabited the earth nearly 400,000 years ago. Enki was known by a variety of names, including Enkig, Ea, Nisiku, and Nudimund. The names come with a variety of translations such as Prince, Lord of the Earth, and Creator, gift of fertility and creation. In Sumerian culture, Enki is heavily connected to the concepts of fertility and creation. This is often represented by water. Ancient images of Enki show rivers flowing from his masculine shoulders. The rivers depicted are thought to be the Euphrates and Tigris rivers that flow through Mesopotamia and signify his gift of fertility to the land. According to legend, the rivers were formed from his semen, which further supports his ties to the concept of fertility. In addition, other symbols associated with Enki are the goat and the fish, which also signify fertility or fertileness. One Sumerian lore depicts Enki as the founder of Eridu, possibly Mesopotamia's first city, thus establishing the beginning of life on Earth. The spiritual site of Eridu has been compared to the Judeo-Christian concept of the Garden of Eden. The intelligent, yet mischievous Enki suggested the gods create other beings to mine the gold for them. The Anunnaki were thought to be clone masters who sought to clone lesser beings, such as the human race, to do their work. Control of human beings is still thought to be happening under Anunnaki gods today. Although Enki contributed to the concept of cloning, which could be considered manipulation of the human race, he was well intended and provided humans with information on how to restore balance to the earth after devastating droughts and famine. Enki had a substantial cosmic family line. His immediate family included a father figure, mother, brother, wife, and 4 sons. An additional 8 children were born later, as mentioned in a folktale. The names and relations of Enki's family members vary throughout ancient texts. Enki was a very powerful god and had the assistance of mythical beings at his service. Legends describe an assortment of creatures such as mermaids, giants, and even demons that aided Enki in his earthly endeavors. Also, he could call upon both destructive and caring existences. Enki favored humanity and social justice. He was known for his intelligence, wisdom, and gift for divine arts and crafts. Enki's knowledge of rituals included exorcism, as well as healing prayers and chants. An important figure in mythological history, Enki remains one of the greatest Sumerian legends and one of the most complex Sumerian gods. As such, one can spend a significant amount of time delving into the history and mystery of Enki. Continue to explore this fascinating mythical being on your own and enjoy the journey. A discovery comes along that challenges those theories. We can thank the late, great journalist George Plimpton for one artifact that has recently challenged that narrative, potentially setting back the history of mathematics and casting a new light on the ever-intriguing culture of the ancient Babylonians. The artifact known as Plimpton 322 is a cuneiform tablet that was purchased almost a century ago from the real-life Indiana Jones and could potentially prove that the ancient Babylonians were the first civilization to understand trigonometry. Cuneiform tablets. Pythagoras is thought to have been the first to understand that the area of the square of the hypotenuse of a right-angled triangle is equal to the sum of the areas of the squares of its other two sides, aka the Pythagorean theorem. But it's not necessarily well documented that Pythagoras actually conceptualized this equation, nor are there any other of his mathematical achievements. Pythagoras ran a school that was shrouded in mystery and secrecy, with a Kabbalistic take on math and numbers. Some believe it is possible that his students may have been responsible for his supposed achievements in mathematics, but, due to either reverence or fear, gave credit to Pythagoras. Interpretations and documentation from the time are scarce, as knowledge was typically spread by word of mouth. At the same time, Pythagoras' school was almost cult-like, with stories of members being murdered for not maintaining the school's secrecy and learnings. The ancient Babylonians, on the other hand, used cuneiform tablets to record much of their intellectual work, with thousands of tablets having been recovered to this day. Many of them were excavated in the early 1900s and sold to museums or collectors. But some of the implications of their carvings are challenging what archaeologists have believed about ancient history. One of these tablets was purchased by George Plimpton for a mere $10 in 1922 and has been the center of a heated debate between archaeologists. The new theory pairs the findings from Plimpton 322 with another tablet known as YBC 7289 and posits that Babylonian mathematics included trigonometry, predating the Greeks by 1,000 years. These ancient Babylonians used a base 60 system of mathematics rather than the base 10 system that we use today. While we have all assumed Pythagoras to be the first to postulate his eponymous theory, Hipparchus is generally known to be the Greek father of trigonometry and the first to produce a trigonometric table known as the Table of Chords. Hipparchus's work required a knowledge of trigonometry for measuring astronomical distances, but much of the basis for his work came from Babylonian mathematics using the base 60 system. Also, few details are known specifically about his life, despite being credited with the discovery of a large field of mathematics. The base 60 system allowed the Babylonians to make trigonometric calculations in terms of ratios rather than angles. What is so fascinating about this discovery is that it brings a subjective interpretation to mathematics, which may seem counterintuitive, but the ancient Babylonian system of trigonometry shows that they were capable of achieving similar results using a different mathematical perspective. Part of their base 60, or sexagesimal system, is even retained today in certain elements of our lives. Long before the sprawling city streets of Mexico City stood another city, one almost lost in the mists of time, if not for the efforts of some amazing archaeologists and a little luck. Under the streets of this Latin American city is another city that was once called Tenochtitlan. Found underneath the now historical sector of modern Mexico City, although its initial construction would look nothing like what we see today, instead, the present Mexico City has been built on a dry lake bed, previously known as Lake Texcoco, and the former Tenochtitlan had its foundations built on an island by the once great Aztec Empire. The great city was expanded and added to over the centuries until its ultimate fall at the hands of the invading Spanish in the 15th century. Before its downfall, it was a true marvel to behold and was one of the largest cities in the pre-Columbian Americas. Bernal Diaz de Castillo, in his conquest of New Spain, offers us some insights into the surprise of the conquerors as they approached the city. When we saw so many cities and villages built in the water and other great towns on dry land, we were amazed and said that it was like the enchantments on account of the great towers and quays and buildings rising from the water, and all built of masonry. And some of our soldiers even asked whether the things that we saw were not a dream. I do not know how to describe it, seeing things as we did that had never been heard or seen of before, not even dreamed about. The great city was founded in 1325 AD, and like most of the civilizations around the world, great cultures need a secure cornerstone of religious underpinnings to bring order and control to the masses. The Mexica was founded in the city and ruled over the Aztec Empire. However, there are suggestions that they were a harsh civilization and plenty of evidence that shows they possessed a cruel streak. The religion was based on an ancient prophecy that recognized the early tribal cultures of Central America and noted that they would find peace in a great city whose site would be signaled to them in the form of a great eagle that held a snake in its mouth resting on top of a cactus. Interestingly, the Mexica concluded that the answer to this prophecy was found on an island in Lake Texcoco, fulfilling their belief and creating a foundation to build the great city and open it to not only their people, but also to their gods. During excavations of Tenochtitlan in 2006, archaeologists uncovered a massive stone tablet dedicated to one of their gods called Tlaticotri. They're calling it the largest Aztec idol ever found, and it seems a title well-deserved, weighing at 12.5 tons. A spectacular statue of that size, with almost perfect detail, should be fascinating enough, but it seems it's even more intriguing because someone was speculating this structure may have been a door to a hidden chamber. The monolith of Tlaticotri was excavated within close proximity to the Templo Mayor, which was actually discovered by accident as workers uncovered a corner of the great monolith while sweeping some of the temple steps. Templo Mayor was the main temple and was used by the Aztecs for ceremonial purposes. Unfortunately, this was primarily human sacrifice. Archaeologists have reported that in one ceremony alone, thousands of victims were sacrificed in 1487. Tlaticotri, the earth god goddess, was a Mesoamerican earth goddess associated with fertility. As she was seen as a source of life, the Aztecs saw it necessary to constantly please their goddess with blood sacrifices, especially human hearts. According to the creation legend surrounding it, the earth first roamed on the primordial sea in the form of a monster by this name. The legend also goes on to say that this goddess was fierce and had a taste for human flesh so ferocious that one single gaping mouth with teeth of flint knives was not enough to satisfy her bestial hunger. To remedy this, she had more mouths at her elbows and knees that could simultaneously devour her victims. She was so savage that even other gods were afraid of her. The myth continues to say that the gods Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl transformed into giant serpents and strangled Tlaticotri until her giant body split in two. They threw one half of her broken body up in the sky, and it was transformed into the vault of the heavens, and the other half of her created the earth. The other deities were appalled by what the serpents had done to Tlaticotri, so they descended to the earth half to console her. They commanded that all the fruits necessary for the survival of humans should come from her. From that moment, all creation was to come from her body. They made it so that all trees, flowers and herbs would spring from her hair, wells and springs to come from her eyes, her mouth would create the rivers, lakes and caverns, and her nose would create the mountain ranges and valleys. The goddess sprang back to life in a new way, but despite the gifts she had been given, she is said to still cry out at night with her longing to continue to eat the hearts of humankind. The legend continues the goddess was restless and would not stay quiet and still until she was given the sacrifices, nor would she bear fruit on the land unless her thirst was quenched with the blood of men. Some researchers believe that the increase in human sacrifice in the later stages of the Mayan civilization and the almost frenzied pace it took with the Aztecs was due to the decline of their society. This downward spiral would have made it very easy for the Spanish to conquer them. Unfortunately, when the massive statue of Tlaticotri was discovered, it was fragmented into 4 pieces, with a section of its core missing or possibly destroyed by the decimation of time. However, despite its incomplete appearance, the monolith of this earth monster deity is one that radiates great power and intimidation to all those in its presence. The Aztecs believed that the presentation of a monument should be in accordance with its cosmological place, and as Tenochtitlan was depicted as an earth monster, she was placed in the earth underneath or below other objects. She was also often carved beneath Aztec monuments rather than in plain sight, like those of the carvings at Tlaloc, and it's believed that this is so that she can take her position off the earth as well as resting against the earth itself. She is also placed front forward in the many representations found of her. In the Aztec culture, it was commonplace for their deities to be presented this way as to show their power and distinguish them from other figures. Directly underneath the statue, they discovered the largest find of offerings, which included shells and corals, a tiny pine mask, a sawfish bill, 8,500 animal bones, a jar of grain, a scepter, and many fire god sculptures. Archaeologists believe these to be an arrangement of sacrificial ornaments or offerings to the goddess. The gods of old and their worship has always fascinated us. Even in modern religion, we venerate statues of saints in buildings and churches that are adorned with symbolism and carvings that are linked to old pagan worship. But sadly, even with the many lives that the Aztecs sacrificed to Tenochtitlan to placate her thirst for human hearts, the once great city of Tenochtitlan was abandoned by their goddess. Following a failed aqueduct designed to bring fresh water to the Aztec people, a massive flood destroyed the city in 1502 AD, including many satellite towns and villages. Even though the city was built by mortar, the walls could not sustain the devastating attack by the water. However, the Mexica were persistent and began rebuilding once the waters receded. For the most part, the technological genius of the Aztec people allowed them to build dams which actually controlled the level of water quite well. However, after the Spanish conquest, the dams were destroyed and the flooding once again claimed this great city of ancient times. A strange circular rock known as Alien Mountain in Sri Lanka is so called because of its cylindrical shape. Numerous UFO sightings, ancient legends, and spiritual connotations. Now, newly discovered petroglyphs, which some believe to be an antique astronomical code, have been discovered at the site as well. Some researchers believe that the mountain and its ancient rock carvings provide proof of extraterrestrial visitors on Earth. Sri Lanka is a large independent island nation in the Indian Ocean, located about 26 miles off the southeast coast of India. The island was colonized by anatomically modern humans in the last interglacial period, dating back to around 125,000 years ago. Danigala Mountain is situated in the Palawanwana district of Sri Lanka and has long been known as a sacred site to the local population. The mountain itself is a unique cylindrical-shaped rock which is known by various intriguing names including Alien Mountain, Kandagama Rock, and the Stargate of King Ravana. It's believed to be one of the places where King Ravana landed his special aircraft, Dandu Monara. According to Hindu legend, King Ravana was one of the most powerful beings ever to roam the universe. He ruled in Sri Lanka over the Manera gods, humans, and demons. Legend says that Ravana ruled Lanka for several hundred years prior to the times of Ramayana, when he was killed by Prince Yama for kidnapping his wife Sita. Some researchers believe that this Ramayana was not entirely fictional character and may have been based on a real king who ruled over Sri Lanka from 2554 to 2517 BC. Under the rule of the scholarly Ravana, Sri Lanka witnessed great advancements in science and medicine. The Pushpaka Vimana, or the aeroplane, in which some versions of the legend is said to have flown during his reign, is held up as an example of the great scientific achievements taking place at the time. The word Vimana is composed of V, the sky, and Mana, meaning measure. Vimana is something that measures the sky as it crosses it. Indian legends are full of stories of Vimana. The most well-known of these legends of the Pushpaka Vimana concerns Rama, who was returning from Lanka to Ayodhya along with Sita after defeating Ravana. The Vimana that was used by Ravana himself was also known as Dandu Monara. In the local Sinhalese language, Monara means peacock and Dandu Monara means that which can fly resembling a peacock. In fact, the story of Ravana flying in a Vimana with his wife Mandodari is depicted in the insignia of Sri Lanka's most famous hotel, Galleyface Hotel, Colombo. In some ancient texts which discuss these flying machines, there are tantalizing mentions of possible fuels used, aeronautics, metallurgy, and aerial maneuvers that were deployed in flying them. Some researchers have noted the connection between these ancient Vimana and the designation of Alien Mountain to describe Danigala Mountain. There's just one problem. There is no record of any UFO sightings in the area of the mountain. It could be, perhaps, the designation Alien Mountain comes from the connection with the ancient Vimanas. Though no one seems to be sure of that, it's possible through the alien connection that it goes further back than modern UFO sightings. In September 2020, a doctor published a controversial report on the ResearchGate scientific networking site on the petroglyphs at Alien Mountain entitled Danigala Coding Sri Lanka. In this report, which describes the new discovery of petroglyphs in a part of the northwest slope of the mountain in July 2020, Danigala states, those bind runes are dominantly compared with other archaeological sites in Sri Lanka and the Southeast Asia region. The type of symbols, bind runes and petroglyphs found are quite new and for the first time discovered in Sri Lanka during Archaeo-Astronomical and Geological Preliminary Survey conducted by the Central Culture Fund with the cooperation of South Asian Astrobiology and Earth Sciences Research Unit of Eco-Astronomy Sri Lanka. Hence, this is a new discovery, and it should be considered as our geological, astronomical, and archaeological heritage site, which represents the collective memory of the anthropomorphic scenes affected by Mother Nature. He's the CEO and founder of Eco-Astronomy Sri Lanka, established in 2016 as a newly developed research area in Sri Lanka. Their research focuses on comparative systematic analysis of extreme environmental conditions of planet Earth which related to extraterrestrial life based on paleontological and petrological factors. He believes that the rock carvings found at Alien Mountain, so-called bind runes, when two or more runes are connected or bound together, constitute a lost astronomical counting system created by the Neolithic hunters thousands of years ago. Though such bind ruins are unique, ancient rock art in Sri Lanka is fairly common. It first came to the attention of researchers in 1897, and to date, over 40 sites have been catalogued on the island. These sites, mostly rock shelters, are mainly concentrated in the eastern, southeastern, north-central, and central hill regions of the island. The paintings in the caves generally depict humans and animals such as elephants, leopards, stags, deer and dogs. It's important to note that the animals depicted are not shown in hunting scenes. When they're shown alongside humans, they appear almost as companions rather than prey. Some researchers have pointed out the similarities between the circular Danigala Mountain and the prominent ancient rock fortress in the northern Matali district near the town of Dambulla in the central province of Sri Lanka. This enigmatic rock outcrop rises dramatically from the plains. Its almost vertical walls soar skyward to a flat-topped summit that contains the ruins of an ancient civilization, believed to be once the focal point of the short-lived kingdom of Kassapa. Given its stunning appearance, it's perhaps not surprising that Sigiriya is known by locals as the eighth wonder of the world. The fortress complex is located on a massive rock plateau 1,214 feet above sea level. The fortress complex includes the remains of a ruined palace surrounded by an extensive network of fortifications, huge gardens,